Welcome everyone, this is DerekJ Speaks, here to give you some quick thoughts on two wrestling shows today, this afternoon/evening. We had on one end, Ring of Honor Final Battle, the last big Ring of Honor pay-per-view of the year, and on the other side, we had NXT Deadline, also their last big show of the year, and both of these combined make for the final two big pay-per-view events of the year for Ring of Honor / AEW and for WWE and NXT. And both shows back-to-back with Final Battle airing at 4 p.m. and NXT Deadline at 8. Both shows back-to-back were very, very good. The slight edge, of course, goes to Final Battle, but I thought we had some very good action all around. A few things not so great, but that takes place between both shows. Both shows had their weak spots, but for the most part they were very strong. And like I said, I give the slight edge to Final Battle, mainly for what will go down as one of the best trilogies of matches of all time, tag team wrestling just in general. That being FTR and the Briscoes putting on yet another banger of a match, this time an absolutely bloody war. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe we had blood, at least not to this degree, in their previous two matches. The first one at Supercard of Honor earlier in the year, and then their match at Death Before Dishonor over the summer. I believe this had to have been the bloodiest match that the two teams have had up to this point, and it definitely fit due to the stipulation. This was a double dog collar match for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship, and these guys just went berserk in this match. No one made it out unscathed, not even the referee. At one point, the referee got accidentally hit with a chain. I believe Dax Harwood accidentally hit him, and even he got busted open, and it was pretty brutal. But it just added to the craziness of this match. And I'm in the middle of putting together what I feel are the top 15 best matches of the year. I have a very limited window, so I'm only doing WWE and AEW matches, or I guess also Ring of Honor matches by that same token. And the previous two matches were instantly on there, and the question going into this show was, would this dog collar match get added to it? And I won't give it away because my top 15 list is not going to be out for another few weeks, but I will say this was definitely a match of the year contender. This was way more uncomfortable to watch than their previous two matches, but it was just so intense, so brutal, and just a crazy match to watch. I probably use that word a lot here, but there's nothing else I can really say to describe it thoroughly than that. And we get the big win for the Briscoes. The Briscoes lost the previous two matches. They lost the titles to FTR at the beginning of the year, and then they lost the rematch over the summer. And now here they got their big win back after Jay Briscoe hit a big superplex on Dax onto a pile of chairs in the middle of the ring. Dax kicked out, and then almost immediately, Jay transitioned into a crossface and just started pulling on the chain and yanking back on Dax's face. Meanwhile, Cash Wheeler is on the outside. He's trying to get into the ring. He's trying to save his partner. Meanwhile, he was chained up to Mark Briscoe, and Mark was kind of pulling on him to prevent him from getting into the ring. That led to the tap out and the victory for the Briscoes, 13-time Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. These guys, I don't know what else I can really say. They had a fantastic match here, a third fantastic match after having two other fantastic matches, and I don't know what else to say. I could see these guys wrestle back and forth all day long, twice on Sunday, although I'm pretty sure with this match here, this is probably going to be the end for a while, and it's understandable, but man, I hope we see it at some point down the line. And as for FTR, this is the first of their titles they're losing. They're still the IWGP Tag Team Champions, the AAA Tag Team Champions, but we could be witnessing the fall of the FTR. They didn't win the AEW Tag Team titles on Dynamite the previous week. They lost the Ring of Honor titles here. They could be on the verge of losing their IWGP Tag Team titles soon, and then the AAA Tag Team titles, and we'll see where it goes from there. Could they be on their way out? Could they be exiting and making their exit and doing the honors for other teams like the freaking Gun Club, which is a team that is so beneath them, it's not even funny, but could that be the possible direction for them? Or can Tony Khan bust out the checkbook and just give these guys whatever the hell they want and whatever they need to keep them in AEW? Because Tony Khan has really dropped the ball with FTR over these last few months. So hopefully with this, we can kind of get back into really seeing these guys on a regular basis and give them some more focus. You can have them lose all of their titles and then start the comeback, start the build back up to them getting back to that elite level, maybe even with the primary focus being the AEW tag team titles. So we'll see. Like I said, great stuff here. As for some of the other matches on the show, we had some other really good matches too. We had a really fun opening match, a tag team match with Rush and Dralistico taking on AR Fox and Blake Christian. This was a fun match. Unfortunately, the finish got botched and AR Fox accidentally won, and it looked like there was a lot of confusion. The referee messed up, maybe the wrestlers messed up, somebody missed their time cue, who knows, but it looked like the finish did not go as planned, but that happens sometimes. Unfortunately, with a fun match like this, that finish, that's all anyone's going to really remember though, but I do want to stress that the match was fun. We had another tag team match on this show as well, Swerve in Our Glory, taking on Shane Taylor Promotions. There was a whole backstory with this match with Keith Lee and Shane Taylor, and of course JD Griffey, with the history that these guys had. Keith Lee and Shane Taylor were a tag team in Ring of Honor. They were tag team champions, I believe. So there was a lot of history here. And then of course you have the whole story with Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland going on right now. And that came to a head in this match when, after some miscommunication and Keith Lee accidentally hitting and knocking down Swerve walked out on him, which is fair because Keith Lee did the same thing to him at Full Gear, so, it's fair. But unlike Swerve, Keith Lee actually won here, so he still won the match for his team, and he was standing solo, so it looks like this has to be the end of this team, and the only question remains is, are we going to get Swerve and Keith Lee one-on-one at some point down the line? And then the rest of the show was filled with a bunch of championship matches. We had a 6-man tag team championship match with Dalton Castle and the boys defending against the Embassy members, Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony. Fun match for Dalton Castle and the boys. The fans love Dalton Castle. And after all these years of just seeing all the crap that Dalton Castle has had to go through with the back injuries and everything, he is still super over with the crowd. So with that, they were not very happy to see the Embassy win, but the Embassy did win. They won the 6-man tag team titles. So very disappointing for the fans there, but this was still a fine match. This was probably one of the weaker matches of the show, if not the weakest match of the show. And I'm not really including the pre-show matches or the 0-hour matches because I didn't really watch them. But of the main card, I feel like this was probably the weakest match on the show. Actually, I take that back. I think the weakest match was the ROH Television Championship match on the show with Samoa Joe and Juice Robinson. It was just a very unfortunate position for them to be in. These guys came on right after the tag team title match. The dog collar match was basically sort of kind of in the middle of the show, so, which was unfortunate because they definitely belonged in the main event, but it is what it is. And the fans were still into it for the most part. They were definitely firmly into Samoa Joe, so that was good to see. And Joe did get the win. He was the first and I believe only champion to retain this title on this show. So good for Joe. We had the ROH Women's World Championship with Mercedes Martinez defending against Athena. Athena, who has undergone this recent character change with the more aggression and more attitude to her character, and it's really resonated with the fans. She was super over here, but I also failed to realize that this show did take place in Texas, Arlington, Texas to be exact, but still, that is the home state of Athena, so that definitely added to how popular she was on this show and in this match. But that's to not take any credit away from her with this new character that she's been doing. So much so that Mercedes Martinez unfortunately got booed, and she hasn't really done anything wrong, but she was the de facto heel in this match, even though Athena was still playing up the heel tactics that she's been adopting in recent weeks. But still good stuff here, and Athena managed to get the win with the O-Face. So this was a very good match and very good victory for Athena. Very proud moment for her. And in the main event, we had Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho in the main event of Ring of Honor Final Battle still is so bizarre. But he was defending against Claudio Castagnoli, the same man who he won the Ring of Honor World Championship from in the first place, in a match where if Claudio were to lose, he would be forced to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. I have been so ready for this feud to come to an end and see these guys move on. We've been seeing the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society feuding all year, and it hasn't been all that great to justify how long it's gone on. We saw some closure earlier in the night. Wheeler Yuta beat Daniel Garcia for the ROH Pure Championship in a very good match by the pure wrestling rules standards that it has. It was a very good match. That ended that story. So here we were hoping that we would get the final stamp on it, and we did. Jericho, he played up the stuff. He had some of his guys come out there and give him the assist. Angelo Parker and Matt Menard giving him the bat. He used it on Claudio, but Claudio kicked out. But in the end, Claudio swung Jericho. He got the big swing on him, got him around for over 30 rotations. I believe the last time I heard the fans count, it was around 31 or 32. But at that point, Jericho tapped out, and the referee called for the bell. This is the first time I remember ever seeing Claudio / Cesaro ever win a match with the swing and with the submission using the swing. But very satisfying finish to this match. It was a good match. I just would have preferred the tag team title match to end the show. But this is your world championship. It's, top moniker. It's Chris Jericho on a Ring of Honor show. So he was going to be in the main event. And I thought for what it was a very good match. And it's good to see Claudio win. Claudio is the champion once again, and he will be the champion to lead Ring of Honor into the future. And according to Tony Khan, after the show, during the media scrum, their future is going to be on streaming. They are reviving the Honor Club streaming service, and Ring of Honor television weekly TV will be moved onto Honor Club. So people can resubscribe and re-sign up $9.99 a month for Honor Club to see Ring of Honor TV, maybe some other big events. He also mentioned that New Japan will have some involvement on the streaming site too. So I don't know if that includes strictly New Japan shows or if we're going to get a lot of crossover with New Japan and Ring of Honor. But that's the big announcement from Tony Khan. When the show will actually debut and what day, what time, all that stuff is TBD. According to him, it'll be after their Seattle show, which is in January. So you have to assume it'll be in January around that time. And it's a little underwhelming only because it looks like Tony Khan was trying to get a TV deal and it just didn't work out. And they kind of had to rely on going to streaming. But it is what it is. It'll just be good to actually see the ROH guys on a show and on their own little bubble. We can get some crossover here and there on AEW television, but it's been just such a dominant force on the TV shows for the past several months, it'll be good to get a little bit of separation going forward. So the sooner we can get an announcement and the sooner we can get a show, the better off Ring of Honor will actually be. So that covers all the ROH portion of this review. Now we shall turn our attention to NXT. NXT Deadline, as I mentioned, the final NXT show of the year, and this show revolved around the debut of a new match concept, a new gimmick, the Iron Survivor Challenge. I'm not going to go through the entire list of rules for the match. You can look it up on WWE.com, you can look it up online, or you can watch the match, and I recommend doing that because we had a men's match and a women's match, and both matches were very, very good. This concept is very new. You can still see, maybe you can work it out a little bit. There's a few changes that can be made here and there. But for the first time we're actually seeing this match take place and unfold, I thought that it worked very well. And that's in large part due to the talent involved in the matches. For the women, they were up first. We had Roxanne Perez, Indy Hartwell, Kiana James, Zoe Stark, and Cora Jade. All 5 of these women had a chance to shine in this match. Not all of them scored a fall. Poor Kiana James was the one who did not get to score any pinfalls in this match. But all 5 women, very impressive, especially Kiana James. She really shocked me. I do not follow the NXT show every single week consistently anymore, so I have not really been exposed much to Kiana James, and from what I saw of her in this match, she was very impressive. I was very impressed with a lot of the moves and offense that she got in this match. Roxanne Perez, of course, was the big darling in this match. Indy Hartwell kind of matched her a little bit. You know, the fans were chanting indie wrestling at certain points, and some of the other stars like Cora Jade and Zoe Stark were very much hated, but still respected by the crowd. But you could tell that they were really invested in Roxanne Perez getting the win, and that's exactly what happened. She scored the last big fall of the match, and she avoided any other big moves and any other pinfall attempts. She even got laid out with a DDT by Cora Jade, but she rolled to the outside, and at that point, the time limit expired, and Roxanne Perez walked away with 2 falls to everyone else's either 1 fall or no falls in the case of Kiana James, and she got the win, and she is now the new #1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship, which is perfect because if there is any woman on this roster who I see as that is the person, that's the girl, that's the woman who needs to beat Mandy Rose, who needs to finally dethrone Mandy Rose and win the NXT Women's Championship. If there's one woman on that roster good for that spot, it is definitely Roxanne Perez. And with this win here, she is 1 step closer to that moment. When will it come? Who knows? They have a New Year's Evil show coming up in January. Their next pay-per-view-like event will be Vengeance Day. That's on February 4th. They're back on the road. They'll be in Charlotte, North Carolina for that show. Either of those shows will be a good destination. My money would probably be on the February show. It's a bigger platform, bigger stage for her to get the win. But the sooner we get to there, the better. But not to be outdone, the men on this show also had an Iron Survivor Challenge. This one included Axiom, Joe Gacy, JD McDonough, Grayson Waller, and Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes was my favorite to win this match. He was a lot of people's favorites to win this match. It almost got to a point where it became maybe perhaps a little too predictable that Carmelo Hayes would win this match. I would argue that this match was tailor-made for Carmelo Hayes to get the big win because the big marquee match right now for NXT, at least as far as the men are concerned, is Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes. Either the 2 young guys, probably the 2 guys right now who come off as the closest to being top stars down the line in WWE on the main roster. You could plug them in now and you could start building them up. More so Carmelo than Braun, but you could plug them in and you see the potential in them. You see top star, top guy potential in both of them. And so with that, you have to believe that the big inevitable clash will be the two of them. And I figured that this match would be designed to get Carmelo closer to that point. But that's not how things went. This match, much like the women, was very well paced. They kept up with the time very well, with the guys coming out at the different time intervals. When people would get pinned, they got sent to the penalty box, and they made use of that way better in this match than they did with the women. In the women, someone would get pinned, they would go to the penalty box. In this match, you had instances where two people got pinned, and they both had to go to the penalty box, and then we saw some infighting over there and around the penalty box. We had Axiom hitting a moonsault off the top of the box onto a bunch of guys out on the floor. So some very creative, unique stuff in this match. But the big heartbreaking finish for many people saw Carmelo Hayes hit a diving leg drop on Axiom, and he was going for the pin, but Grayson Waller pulled him out. He got in, he stole the pin, and he got the final fall of the match. And Carmelo Hayes started to chase after him. Joe Gacy, JD McDonough, everyone started to chase after him, but none of them could catch up to him. And by that point, the time expired, and Grayson Waller walked out with the win. And he is the new number one contender for the NXT Championship. I personally, like I said, would have gone with Carmelo Hayes. There's still time for it, I guess, but Grayson Waller works too. Outside of Carmelo Hayes, he was the one who I would have wanted to see. I have no interest in seeing Axiom challenge for any kind of championship right now. And both Joe Gacy and JD McDonough, who was the person in this match who did not score any falls, much like Keanu James in the earlier match, both of them, we've seen them in the ring with Bron Breakker before, and they both lost. Both of them on multiple occasions, so they had no real chance of winning this match either. So it's good to see someone new get that spot. Grayson Waller, he is one of the top heels in NXT. He gets tremendous heat. At one point in this match, he even got in Booker T's face and called him a bitch, and he got some heat for that too. So he plays his role very well. He comes off very well as the arrogant, cocky prick, which I'm sure is probably not too far off from who he really is. But I don't know Grayson Waller personally, so I don't know that to be sure. But he plays the role very well, and having someone like him go up against your babyface champion, Bron Breakker, should make for a good dynamic. And with that being said, Bron Breakker, he is still the NXT champion. The big main event on this show was Bron and Apollo Crews. I liked the build-up and a lot of the vignettes and segments with Bron and Apollo leading into this show. We got to see a different side of Bron Breakker, and I thought that worked very well. And I thought that they had a very good match. It could not hold a candle to either of the Iron Survivor challenges. Those matches were very great. This one, it was just very good, but it wasn't anything overly special. And Apollo did get the win, and then as they were going off the air, Grayson Waller came in, hit the rolling cutter, and laid out laid out Bron. And so that sets up their big match. Like I mentioned with Roxanne and Mandy, I'm sure that this is a match that could be saved for either that New Year's Evil show or as the main event of that big Vengeance Day pay-per-view in February. Outside of that, we had a few other matches, one of them including Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who were having a good match. It was okay until the finish, where Isla Dawn basically possessed the referee in this match. This was not a great night for referees between both shows, with the Briscoes match having the referee get bloodied up. Here, a referee gets possessed and he starts coughing and spitting up and spitting out some black sludge of some kind. He looked to be in great pain. Other referees came out to check on him. Meanwhile, Alba Fire got shoved face first into an exposed turnbuckle and got pinned by Isla Dawn. So Alba Fire is just racking up a whole bunch of losses. She failed in every attempt at dethroning Mandy Rose for the NXT Women's Championship, and now in this match with Isla Dawn, she fails here too. So not a great series of matches for her, but this was just bad. The match itself was okay. It was just a regular standard match. This finish with the stuff with the referee is just bad. I don't know, with this voodoo supernatural type stuff that they're doing with Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, I'm not a fan. And seeing it there, it just, was not good. But what was good was the NXT Tag Team Championship match on this show with Pretty Deadly, Elton Prince, and Kip Wilson? Kip Wilson and Elton Prince taking on the New Day, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, coming down to the developmental program to challenge for the tag team titles, and did so successfully. I was very shocked at this outcome. I knew there was at least a chance New Day were going to win, because it just felt like it would make sense, especially earlier this year, Dolph Ziggler won the NXT Championship, so it was not out of the realm of possibility that something like this was going to happen. But I thought maybe Imperium will come out. They've been feuding with them on SmackDown. Maybe they'll show up and they'll cost New Day the match here, give Pretty Deadly a win over an established team like New Day, but not in the cleanest fashion. But no, they had the New Day go over. Pretty Deadly, Kip and Prince, they did very well in this match, and they hung in there with New Day. But New Day, of course, they're one of the best tag teams in the world, even still to this day, with their shtick not being as fresh as it once was. They still can go out there and put on banger matches, and this was no exception here. And they managed to walk out as the brand new tag team champions, giving Kofi Kingston his 15th overall tag team championship reign, and making him the man with the most tag team title reigns in WWE history. That's a hell of a record for Kofi Kingston. So that closes that out. Like I said, I would give the edge to the Final Battle show. I think that was the much more superior of the two shows. But NXT Deadline was very good in its own right. You had two very good Iron Survivor Challenge matches. With this being a brand new gimmick, still working out the kinks and the bugs and all that kind of stuff, I thought that they delivered. I thought that they put on a very good match. But nothing on that show could hold a candle to what we got with the Briscoes and FTR. One of the best matches of the entire year. And with that, I conclude this big double review of these two back-to-back shows. A very fun way to spend a Saturday afternoon and evening watching two back-to-back very fun wrestling shows. But that's it for me. Next time you'll hear from me will be this upcoming week. I'll be covering AEW Dynamite this week. It's the big Winter is Coming episode where we'll see MJF and Ricky Starks collide for the AEW World Championship. After that, I might review an episode of Raw, maybe an episode of SmackDown. But the big final video from me will be coming towards the end of the year. I will be revealing my top 15 favorite WWE and AEW matches of 2022. I am still in the process of whittling it down. I have to make some modifications because of some of the matches that took place today. But I'll go in, I'll get it finalized, I'll throw some honorable mentions in there too, and I will present that list to you guys at the end of the month, which is also the end of the year. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all for tuning in. If you like what you heard and you like what you saw, hit that like button, comment down below your thoughts on these shows, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks. Thank you all. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning into these videos all year, and I hope you join me once again as we go into 2023 and another crazy year of professional wrestling. Until then, thanks guys. Have a good night.